application in either the Xcode environment or the Eclipse environment. There are other environments more suited to coding HTML5, CSS, and JavaScript. I'm going to be using Komodo Edit. That's a free editor available online. Just Google search Komodo Edit free, and you'll come up on the free editor. It's available for PC and Mac, and I highly recommend it. So here's my application, and in here I've got the typical folders that are created, my index, JavaScript, and other parts of the application. Now here in the images, I'm going to clean out what's here. Don't need that, logo.png. So I'm going to go ahead and actually delete that, move it to the trash. And I'm going to replace in the image folder a couple of images that I just created for this example. So let me go ahead and grab those, and we'll put them into this particular folder. So, by the way, the fictional app that we're making here is an app that teaches people CSS. So it's a little instructional app that basically plays a bunch of CSS videos. So these are the images that are going to be part of our app, and I've put those in place. And this is all before we do the structure. I'm going to take out this existing CSS file. It does nothing for us. Matter of fact, as we talk about the structure of our document here, we're only going to be talking about HTML. We're not dealing with CSS yet. I'm going to take out this index.js, move that to the trash. Here in resources, if I wanted to here, I could create unique icons for my application to display on the device itself. There are a couple of different standards here because we have for the iPhone and iPad both Retina and non-Retina screens. So you can see here we've got these graphics at different resolutions. So all we would have to do is replace those, and we could replace the actual screen icon. We actually could take those out or leave them there. We don't need anything in here for right now. I'm going to leave it alone. Now, we do need the index and the Cordova JS files. I'm going to load the index into my editing environment now. Now, initially, as you're learning, you're going to want to clean up this example file here. We no longer need this. We'll work on that a little bit later when we get into more dynamic types of applications. We'll go ahead and place the script up here to attach to Cordova. We're not even really using that right now. And let's make our title Learn CSS. I'm going to take out this link here relative to the style sheet. We'll be creating our own style sheet later on in the course. We don't need the stock one. And here for format detection, etc., I'm going to leave those in for right now. And I'm going to take out all of the content here in the body. Now, with HTML5, our strategy is to lay out our content semantically. And what that means is we should use the HTML5 tags that best describe what the element is. You may be used to using tags like div and then giving it an ID. And while that's still permissible under HTML5 and HTML5 for mobile, it's not the best practice. So, for example, if we take another quick look at our actual application, you'll see that we have a header area, an application description area, and then several content areas and a footer area. Well, HTML5 actually offers us a number of semantic tags that are going to describe the content in those areas of our application or our page. So as I create the document structure, application structure, I'm going to start with our header area. Header is an HTML5 tag, and in here we'll put the header content. Now, for the application description, I really don't have a particular tag that says application description in HTML5. So here I could use a div, or I could use the article tag. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use article, but I'm going to give the article an ID of app description. So next we have the 3 content areas. I'm also going to make those articles, giving them appropriate IDs, content, vid, 1, 2, and 3. Now, sometimes I realize as your applications get more complex, this content will not necessarily be static, but be generated based on an XML or content from a database. But you've got to be able to lay it out statically before you can lay it out dynamically. All right, and then we have our third article. Now, it's important to note that these have no particular way they're laid out in many browsers. We've got to style them with CSS. This is just marking up the content. All right, so then we have our footer. Footer is also an HTML5 tag. So this will suffice for this particular application. This will allow us to have the header, our description, and then our content vids. So, by the way, I'm just showing you kind of a few of the available HTML5 markup tags. There's a number more, like for example here, in article we could have, let's say we have an H1 tag, and we have the name of our application, CSS development with CSS3. So it's an application to teach CSS. And then we have a summary. So the summary would be, some text that summarize the application. Now, we don't need to have our summary make any real sense. So I'm just going to borrow some Latin text and put it in here. So within the summary, we, again, don't have a particular way of laying this out until we attach some CSS. So I've grabbed my text here, and let's go ahead and we'll just put that in here in the summary. And I'm going to turn on word wrap to make this easier to see. There we go. So there's our summary. So then we have our articles, each of which contains the actual video and a short description of the video. I'm just going to borrow some of this text again to be the short description. So our video, as you might remember, there's our application folder, is going to be in the IMG folder and call vidcap.png. We also have the header image as well. So let's grab the header image first, header.png. So here we are in the header, and we're going to use the image tag, image source equals header.png. You can put an alt in there if you want. It's not going to have a lot of effect in a mobile application. And it's not a bad idea if you want to specify a width and height if you're targeting a specific width and height. Otherwise, I would just leave it alone. All right. And then we've got our app description. And now we're going to go down to these. So these will all have the vidcap image, image source equals, and now that I'm looking at this, I think I did the first one wrong, vidcap.png. Did I not put the IMG folder in the first one? I didn't. Did you catch that as I was doing it? All right, so then this will go into all 3 articles. Now, in the real world, of course, we're just doing a little layout here, but in the real world, these would be different images. And then we need a little bit of description. We could put that in summary tags if we wanted to. So we'll just take a little bit of description here. I think I copied some before, but there we go. Copy summary. And we'll lift this and borrow this for each of the rest of the content div section, content vid sections. And there's the last one, image. And then finally we have our footer, and I'm just going to put here copyright 2012 and all rights reserved. Now, this isn't really going to look like much. We could go ahead and put it in a browser. Let's go ahead and use Chrome. And we get a very basic layout that's completely unstylized, right? We have our text, we have everything that we put in here. Now, the stylization comes with when we actually add the CSS, which we haven't added yet. Now, at this point, we also can go ahead and build this in our device. In this case, we're going to be using the iPhone emulator, but we could just as easily have used the Android emulator here. And so we're going to build our project, and we're going to see what it looks like on the phone at this point. Now, again, I wouldn't expect this to be laid out really the way that I want because we haven't added any CSS. Remember, CSS is for the layout. All right, so here comes our Xcode environment booting up here. That takes just a minute or two. And once that boots up, what we can do is we can go ahead and build this in our simulator. Now, in Xcode, you have a number of different simulators you can use, everything from iPhone, iPad simulators, and different versions of each. So you've got to choose which version you want to go ahead and run this in. I'm going to go ahead and use an iPhone 5.1 simulator and click the Run button. And now we're going to see our HTML rendered in the simulator. All right, and here's our simulator, and you'll notice that the way we have it now, our header graphic's a little too big. Text is flowing correctly. There's our footer down there. So while we can side scroll, this kind of renders without a style sheet some close to what we might want, but it's evident that we're going to need CSS to make this appear exactly